I'll be honest, I didn't really expect much of Morbius leading up to its release. I didn't really feel any hype around it. I did watch the trailer, and the trailer didn't really get me excited for it. I did hope that it would be more of like a horror, like action, like mixture of those two genres, but instead it just felt like another corny superhero flick. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this movie was delayed a few times, but it still sucks.
I'm disappointed. I am.
I mean, I didn't think the writing was that good, or the dialogue, or the pacing, or the acting, or the action sequences,
Crap, mega crap.
or the visual effects for that matter, even though at times they did look pretty cool. But overall, I just thought it was a pretty bad film. The movie is an origin story for Morbius, or Dr. Michael Morbius, who suffers from a rare blood disease that requires him to have blood pumped into his body in order to survive. And he has a friend named Milo, whose real name is actually Lucian. I don't know why the fuck he calls him Milo. I don't know if it ever expanded upon that. Maybe I was like, they went over my head, I don't know. But he calls him Milo. His name's actually Lucian, so I'm gonna call him Lucian. Now, really quick on a side note, I just wanted to say that when I heard the name Michael and Lucian, I recalled Underworld, which was a film about vampires and werewolves, and there was a character named Lucian and a character named Michael. And I also recalled the Vampire Diaries and the Originals, which also had a character named Michael and Lucian, and that is also about vampires and werewolves and other supernaturals. And now this one, vampires, another character named Lucian and another character named Michael. And I was just thinking to myself, like, why do they keep using these names? But anyway, Michael and Lucian both suffer from a rare blood disease, and Michael saves Lucian's life by fixing, I think it was his blood pump when it like malfunctioned, and I think he fixed it with a ballpoint pen. So because he's so smart, he was able to go study in New York, if I'm not mistaken, and Lucian remained where he was at in care of, I can't remember what the doctor's name was, but he remains there, and Michael Morbius is like goes to New York, and he becomes a doctor who specializes in like blood diseases and whatnot, and he's actually up for the Nobel Prize for his synthetic blood, but he refuses it because it doesn't cure him, which is really stupid. I mean, you're just gonna disregard all the lives that you saved, but because you can't save yourself, you're not worthy of a Nobel Prize, or you just don't want it. That seemed kind of dumb to me. I don't know, maybe it's like some weird like principle thing, but whatever. To wrap up this plot, Michael imported or stole vampire bats. I think it was from Costa Rica, I can't remember, but he steals bats illegally, and he wants to like make a serum that's based on their genes, like their vampiric genes or whatever. I don't know, it's something very sciencey, but he wants to make a serum using vampire bats, and his friend Lucian funds the whole thing illegally. And I don't know how he becomes a billionaire, because Lucian was in the care of whatever the doctor's name was, and Michael's the one that went to New York to become a doctor. So I don't know how the fuck he became a billionaire or a millionaire, whatever the fuck he is, because he seems to have money. Maybe it went over my head, but I don't recall it ever being discussed, ever mentioned how he came to that money. But anyway, he funds the project. Michael becomes a vampire. He has everything you would expect from a vampire: superhuman speed, superhuman strength, and other like vampiric senses that allow him to like smell, hear, etc., etc. Michael realizes it's a curse. Lucian doesn't accept that. He wants to live, so he steals the serum, takes the serum, becomes a vampire, becomes an asshole, becomes a psychopath. They fight. The end. Now, like I said, the pacing was really bad, because all it gives you is a few minutes of his backstory when he was a child to make you kind of care for his character, like garner sympathy or something. But they're children. I don't necessarily care for them individually as characters, but more of the fact that they are children with rare blood diseases. I mean, you gotta give me more than that. You can't just give me, oh, there's two children with rare blood diseases, care for these characters. Like, I don't. Both characters felt very bland and boring. I mean, all the characters really did. His girlfriend, her colleague, the detective, and his partner, who kept trying to be funny throughout the entire film, but he wasn't. And Tyrese Gibson's character, I can't remember what his name was, but he's very boring. He didn't really add anything to the film at all. And Lucian, once he got the serum, he just became a psychopath. And there was really no development for any of the characters, and Lucian being a villain was very predictable. Like when I saw that he had money, I already knew, alright, he's going to want to take the serum anyway, despite what Michael says about it being a curse, because in all like vampire movies and vampire shows, you always hear about vampirism being a curse, immortality being a curse. But Lucian's going to want to take it anyway, he's going to become the villain, and that's it. It's very predictable. So it's not only predictable, but this transpires like more than halfway through the film. So by the time you determine that Lucian's going to be the antagonist, he's the villain, there isn't much time to like develop this like climax. It feels very rushed. I think if the film was a little bit longer, it could have been better. They could have had time to develop these characters and develop this plot and make me actually care about the climax. But the movie was about an hour 45 minutes, but that does not include the end credits, so it's more like an hour and 30 minutes. And like I said, all this, like the turning point, happens more than halfway through the film. Now this is a very similar problem I had with Suicide Squad from 2016, which also starred Jared Leto. And like, I don't think Jared Leto's a bad actor. I actually think he's a very good actor. Maybe it's just the roles that he gets, and maybe it's just the writing, maybe it's just the directing. But in that film and in this film, like he wasn't captivating to me. He was very cringy. In this film, I wouldn't say he was cringy, but it was very bland and boring. And again, that could be the directing and the writing or whatever. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with him, but that's just the way it is. As for everybody else in the film, I ain't got nothing to say there. I don't know what to say about that. Now, as far as the action sequences go, it involved a lot of camera movement, and at times it was kind of hard to see what was going on. At times it was kind of like Venom Let There Be Carnage, when Carnage and Venom were fighting, and it was kind of hard to tell what was going on. At least when it was Lucian versus Michael, and it was very dark, and at times it was kind of hard to see what was going on. But other than that, like, nothing really happened in those sequences. Now, they had a few like first person like point of view kind of moments, and that was pretty cool. But other than that, I didn't really care for the action sequences. But a lot of that has to do with the build-up. The build-up was bad, the pacing was bad, the acting was bad, in my opinion. So by the time the climax came and when the action sequences came, I didn't really care for it. Not to mention that the villain is very unlikable and generic, which makes for a lackluster plot and a lackluster climax. So I was not feeling this film in any way. It was a very boring film. It was a poorly executed film. They should have kept it like delayed for a little while longer and developed it better, made it longer. I don't know. Or maybe they shouldn't have released it at all. I don't know. And I don't know if this will put it in perspective for you, but I went on IMDb, and IMDb is not like a clear indicator of whether or not a movie is good or bad, because it's all subjective. Different movies will appeal to different people. But you know how much a movie has to suck to rank below a 5.0? Like, if you look at all the movies that got really bad reviews, all these films that you can think of off the top of your head, none of those films, or at least most of those films, do not rank below a 5.0. That is how bad Morbius is. Like, don't take my word for it. If you want to watch it, by all means, I'm not going to tell you what to think or what to like. I'm just saying, on IMDb, you have to be a really bad fucking movie to have below a 5.0. But anyway, I didn't like the film. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you watched it, if you enjoyed it, if you share my opinion, hit that like button. It does help me a lot. Subscribe if you have not already, and I will catch you in the next film. Next video next Friday. See you then. Bye bye.